Alright, today we're going to talk about the symbolism and the perversion of the symbolism. Here's some, you can see the differences on what they've done. The color tells you what element, right? The black means earth, the white is Europe, and the red is the sky or the heavens. And it's inverted. Here's the original symbol. They turned it around, they hit it at a 90-degree, they inverted it, hit it at a 90-degree angle, and then swapped the colors. You can see the some of the, that's from Britannica there. Here we go. You see the difference clearly here in what was done. And it speaks to the subconscious. Let me pick this up. Okay, where did the swastika come from? Respectively, it's a geometrical figure and an ancient religious icon in the cultures of Eurasia. They're throwing that Asia in there when we know it is India, which has nothing to do with Europe or Asia. And Indian religions it's not Eurasian. Eurasia took it and perverted it. The swastika as a symbol of prosperity and good fortune is widely distributed throughout the ancient and modern world. The word is derived from the Sanskrit, meaning conducive to well-being. And of course that symbol brought about nothing but unwell-being. Of course we're in unworld now. It's unnatural, unholy, unclean. We're in unworld. So they take the symbols, they pervert them, and the subconscious, and then they give it to the people. They attach a lie to it to make the people want the symbol, and then you're going to get what the subconscious, the collective subconscious, the universe, and your dream state all speak in symbolism. And so they gave them, the universe gave the people exactly what they asked for. They asked for the perverted symbolism. Symbolism is everything. That's why the Old Testament God forbade any symbol of heaven or earth. You are in a time of water and fire. Water and fire. And no heaven and earth symbols. And if you do get a heaven and earth symbol, they're going to take it, change the color of it, pervert it, invert it, convert it, subvert it, prevert it. And that's what's going on. That's why I have my channel. Because in 2020, well, let's back up and punt. In the 60s, we had a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in mutable Earth. Let me take you to a zodiac. Explain to you what's going on here. Get one with symbolisms that everybody can see. Well, I'm just alright. Back in the 60s, in Virgo, we had a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in mutable Earth with Pluto. And we manifested from the subconscious mind. The next 20 years. The next 20 years. The next 20 years. Every time Saturn and Jupiter meet, it's a generational marker and it sets the stage for the next 20 years. When Saturn and Jupiter meet, the door to the Black Lodge opens. That is the collective subconscious. And we manifest from there. Especially when Pluto is there. And we're going to have it again. We had it in mutable Earth in the 60s. The mutable cross brings about the transmutation, the change. This time it's going to happen in cardinal earth. And this is the sign of creation. As Cancer, its opposite is destruction. Capricorn is creation. Cardinal earth. And that's where it's happening. The differences between these two events. The one coming up, Jupiter's debilitated here. Jupiter rules philosophy and ideology, and Pluto's in his house right now with Saturn. And what you have to do is clean up the monsters of the id here, the monsters of the collective subconscious. But the media, the TV, the corporations, and their logos, their symbols that you cling to are perverted symbols, and the collective is going to manifest the same thing that happened with the swastika. That's what's going down. That's what I'm trying to get across to everybody. It's about the symbolism. And the universe doesn't speak language. The universe speaks symbolism. This is the language of the universe. It's symbols. Sign, everywhere there's a sign. I can't stress that enough of how important that is. That we get the proper symbolism. And I don't know what to do about the rest of the world, right? I don't have a clue how to approach that, other than enough people get this right. They're trying to put the two generations of Libra and Scorpio, Pluto and Libra and Pluto and Scorpio, ahead of the Pluto and Virgo generation. They've shut them down. This Pluto and Virgo, that generation, that were born back then, they're the ones that are going to be manifesting in 2020. It's their generation. But what the TV and the media are presenting to you, what the corporate logos, I mean, even the Mandela effect, it changed a lot of corporate logos. Volvo, Ford, I mean, the list goes on, really, and even minor changes, just minor ones. In sigil magic, which is the magic of graven images, every line, every dot has a meaning. That's why Christ said, not one dot, not one tittle, not one iota of the law would change. But his law is a law of love. The Old Testament, that's a different God. That's a God of fire. You know, they create, let me see if I can get this for you. I don't know how many of you know what this is. It's called a golem. It is kind of like a Frankenstein. You're just going to have to go look it up. It's an old Talmudic thing. It's part of rabbinical Judaism now, but its origin is Talmudic. And remember, the G and the K are interchangeable. That's 711. You need to know this. It's the 711 code. And it's like I'm telling you, September is 7. It's always been about a 711 code. So the G and the K are the same. Let's turn it around. Let's leave the vowels. That's the god of fire. When making a golem, you have to have 3 priests. One of fire, one of water, and one of air. And then the golem itself, or the molag, is the earth part, or the sacrifice. And that's how that's done. And that's who that is. And that's what they're creating. And they do this. You know this today. A lot of this, it's not the GK, it's the MK. Right? It's the 1311. Then you have the PK. That's the 1611. It's a poker. It's a PK. That's really the most powerful one. This one is Vatican. This one is Judaism, and this one is the Protestants. And this is what they did. I'm telling you, I broke the freaking Bible Bibble Babble code a long time ago. And I had been into all the, I wasn't into them, but I had read a lot of the grimoires, the Necronomicons, and even after I learned alchemy and it clicked for me, I even went back and looked at a lot of that material, because a whole new world opened up to me. It was a whole new language and a whole new everything around me I had to reevaluate and to see it for what it is. And that's when I realized what they were doing with the symbolism. And so they're doing now to the people, getting them all riled up, and they're perverting these symbols and throwing them out there. Okay? I want to talk about one more thing. I can't find the image I was looking for, so I'm just going to talk about it. I call it the fall of civilizations, right? Especially democracy. How do you destroy democracy? It destroys itself. What goes on, number one, to me there's a difference between a republic and a democracy. A democracy, that's an old Greek thing. It didn't work back then, and it's not going to work now. And it won't work for this very reason. Because in a democracy, what happens is the rich people end up compromising and blackmailing, either buying out the politicians or compromising them to blackmail them to control them. And it has a pattern to it, and here's how it works. Example, take 100 years ago. All they had to do to get rid of a politician was to get him in a compromising position with another woman. He's married. You didn't even get divorced back then. So for them to not be guilty and blackmailed anymore, they need to make divorce legal, and to have an affair ain't no big thing, right? You got to legalize the crime. So that's what they've been doing. And it slowly strips away the moral laws to where we're at the point now that it's no holds barred. I mean, everything's on the table. They're to the point of, there's legislation out there to this NAMBLA, man-boy love stuff, and just as perverted as you want to get. I mean, right down to human sacrifice and cannibalism. And if they make that the norm, then they feel like they can't be, the elite can't be, you can't hold it over their head anymore. Oh, this is normal. We all do it. Right? That's how it happens. And it's all over greed. Some rich man who, if you wanted control, why didn't you just go into politics yourself? You know, why? But it's a cycle. And it can't help but fall the way it's designed. It cannot help but fall. And that's why they put the most corrupt, the most greedy in power. The Bible tells you, the Old Testament priesthood God tells you that he decides who the kings are, and he puts the most corrupt people possible in there. There's never been a moral king or a moral ruler. Not in the church, not in any government. It's all going to fail, and here's why. All right, government. means to govern the mind. And so when we have governments, it's to rule outside of ourselves because we can't. And I'm sitting and thought about it for a long time. And those, it's like Jesus and Paul and quite a few others made a statement that we're not of this world. We're in this world age, but we're not of this world age. And I think people of other world ages, they might have needed somebody to govern the mind, even as corrupt as they were. It's the crown chakra should rule the mind. The higher self should rule the mind. But we've been ruled from down here. We've been ruled from down here for over 4,000 years. Right here. And this is governing the mind. And that's why we're not of this world. Right now we're in water world right here. This is Aries, this is Pisces, this is Aquarius. And under Saturn, under the third eye, the higher self, you don't need government. It's about individual sovereignty. It's no longer groupthink. As a matter of fact, Saturn rules government in Capricorn. It's Saturn's house. It's the house of the higher self. And that's why Jupiter's debilitated there. And Mars, the one on the bottom, he's exalted up when he comes under the rule of the third eye. Because he's no longer warlike and he's no longer sexual. He becomes grounded in cardinal earth. He's exalted there and he gets the job done. He moves from being under the authority of desire and lust and war and rage, and he becomes under the authority of the third eye, the higher self. That's why governments don't work. It'll be kind of like a monarchy, I keep calling it, but our understanding of monarchy is warped. Because we think one king, one king, you. You are the king of your domain. Your throne is the toilet in the bathroom. The bathroom is where you go to get clean. Everything here's backwards from what it should be. Because we're in upside down. He's put himself at the top. He's put himself at the top. Look familiar? Upside down? Does that look familiar? What symbols do we have there? But that's what's going on. That's why I stress get the symbolism right. Get the perverted symbols out of your house. To me, there's nothing wrong with the water and the fire symbols, but the perversions of them are. And you don't want to put them in places of power. We all need to come under the power of the third eye. And we will in Aquarius and in the age of Capricorn. They're one age. And we'll be our own sovereign king. Everybody will be their own sovereign king or their own sovereign queen. Period. There'll be no more nepotism. You won't be able to get a job because of the color of your skin or your age or your gender or your religious or political belief. Not because of who you know or who you're related to. You're actually going to have to do it on merit. You're going to have to earn it. There'll be no free rides in Aquarius or Capricorn. But you will have a purpose and you will feel useful. You'll actually feel like you belong there. And that's why we don't feel like we belong here. Because we don't. We're in this world, but we're not of it. those of you who are on my channel and relate to what I'm saying, you already have a sense of your higher self. Even if you haven't opened your third eye, you know you're still ruled by it. Call it the Holy Spirit. And that's the only sin, that's the only unforgivable sin, is blaspheme of the Holy Spirit. And Saturn rules all things spirit. Jupiter rules all things physical. Celestial, terrestrial. Spiritual, physical. Etheric, tangible. But not in the next one, because the higher mind's going to take over the body. We won't have to struggle with these powers and principalities of the flesh. There are different spirits. Every one of these chakras has a spirit attached to it. So we're told to try the spirits to see which god they be of. The sentence structure is so important, and little words like or, it, at, the, if, but, and, of, these, it's the little words that were actually put in there because of our English language that didn't exist in the Greek. There was no he, she, there was no masculine or feminine. Everything was it. You had to go back to the subject because the masculine and feminine was built into the subject, not into the pronoun. And that's how I figured all this out. And then it led me to everything, no matter what I studied, if I traced it to its root, it led me to the stars. And that it was driving me batty. I'm studying linguistics, I'm studying religion and language and alchemy and archaeology, and it keeps dragging me back to the stars. Everything did. And I didn't believe in astrology. I was looking at Western astrology, and it just didn't fit. It didn't make any sense. It was hocus pocus. So I went to look at the sidereal, and I seen a lot of the same hocus pocus. I liked the dates better in the sidereal. Actually made sense to me. But still, a lot of the tradition, I didn't get it. It didn't make any sense to me. But when I learned that alchemy is astrology, that the story of what's going on here is written in the heavens, but it's told in two different directions. It's like Virgo. Virgo in one story, she's the most precious woman ever on the face of the earth. She's the woman with the alabaster box. She's in the priest's house, and she's thrown herself on the floor at Christ's feet, and she's washing his feet with her tears, and she takes her hair and dries it. And then she takes the alabaster box and she anoints him. And the priest, tell Christ, how can you let that whore touch you? And he said that this woman will be remembered through all time. This story will be told about her. And because it's written in the heavens. It's the story of Virgo. But in the other direction, that same woman is the whore of Babylon. Who's telling the story? From the priest's perspective, she's the whore of Babylon. But from Christ's perspective, she was precious and beloved. And one of three people that had the audacity, the courage to show up at the crucifixion. So it's depending on who's telling the story here. I like this story Christ had to say. I prefer the red words. The Babylonian priesthood are a bunch of perverted liars. And they've perverted everything. It doesn't, they're going to take it and flip it. It's what they do. That's what they did to the languages. And when the tongues were divided in Babylon, they divided it by flipping it. They perverted it. And that's what they do to everything. It's unworld. It's unholy. It's unpure. It's unnatural. And it's unwanted by the majority of the people on this planet. And it's all being done subconsciously, using the collective through perverted symbolism, just like it was in Germany and in Europe. Understand, it wasn't just the symbols in Germany that were perverted. If you'll go look at some of the other symbolisms, you'll see that as well. You'll find it all, perverted symbolism is rampant through the work of the Golden Dawn with Crowley and Thelema. All of that has the perverted symbolism. And therefore you're going to get the opposite of what you expect. Which is funny, because I looked up famous sayings that people say at their death. Famous last words. Oh yeah, famous last words. And a lot of the Masons, wizards, warlocks, Crowley, the whole crew, and every one of them were shocked at their death. Yeah. They thought they were going to apotheosis, right? But they were living in upside down world. And so when you're in upside down world and you apotheosis, you're going to a hell above. That's what they found out. And we don't have to do that. We're in upside down world. We're in unworld. And we need to get rid of unworld. We really do. We need to revamp this whole thing. And it seems like almost impossible task. But all it takes is that stone from heaven. All it takes is one thing, one frequency, to open everybody's third eye, or at least a majority of the population. Now, a lot of people, when they say you sell your soul, you sold your third eye out. Because when you're down here, when you're running on the lower chakras, the lowest chakra, Mars, rules emotion and adrenaline. And when you're an emotional person, your adrenaline's pumping and it closes the third eye off. It kills it. It withers. Well, the noise is starting now. Be good to each other. Be the best person you can possibly be. When you're good to others, you're really being good to yourself. You just don't know it.